This is Humility and Unapologetic Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Humility and Unapologetic Podcast. To the right of me, I have Mrs. Brandi Twillie. And today we will be talking about education. Oh, yeah, also my co-host, John here.
I'm still here.
I do apologize.
I'm still here.
But we're going to be talking about education with Brandi today. And she's just going to be filling us in just on various topics like, you know, the pandemic and how to help our teens advance in this thing called world. Yeah, but first of all, I want to start off by saying I appreciate you being on, Brandi.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, indeed. And I always, have a thing for educators because that is one of the toughest jobs. Like, you guys are in control of our youth.
Absolutely.
And the brain is such a critical thing, and y'all catch them at the most critical point, to help shape and mold them because they're our futures. Yeah. As I watch the protests and stuff going on TV, it's mostly led by the youth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so so teachers, they have a great influence, and most teens who are, I guess, underprivileged, one of the main people that they realize, who they remember are their teachers. So I just want to thank you for your service, pretty much.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we're gonna kick off today's episode with like as far as students, because you teach at a high school, right?
Yes.
When they're transitioning, going into college, what are some of the things that they can do, to help them transition going into college?
That transition from high school to college is major, right? So it's going to be the first time that a lot of those kids are leaving their homes, leaving their parents, leaving the comfort of the environments that they've known for the previous 13 years. And so they are very anxious and excited to get out.
Yes.
And so a lot of what we do when those kids are transitioning is we try to help keep them calm, keep them focused, and guide them to what is best suited for their needs.
Okay.
All kids are not going to go to college.
Right.
It's not meant for them to go to college. And so what we want is, first we have to have lots of meaningful conversations with parents, because probably like my parents, the thing was go to school, get your education, go to college, get a degree.
Yeah.
That's not the conversation anymore.
Okay.
We are realizing that a lot of these kids straight out of high school probably need to pick up a trade.
Yeah.
And so we need to be mindful of that because, like you said, they look to us for a lot of guidance and a lot of resources. So we are making concerted efforts to change the conversation. No, it's not necessary for you to go to college and rack up all these student loans when you know that there is something that you want to do. So you're going to see a big push for vocational programs in secondary education. And that is where kids can go and they are in normal traditional classrooms half the day. And then they go and they learn things like HVAC and welding and cosmetology and culinary arts because it gives them direct exposure to something that they're actually interested in.
Right.
So when you talk about making that transition from high school to college, we want to make sure that parents are knowledgeable, that kids are knowledgeable, but that the entire family is very clear on what the next step should be for that kid.
Okay. So it's okay not to have a focus, like when you leave, you leave high school, you graduate, I don't know what I want to do. Is that okay? Or should you, is it something to, help me along to find what I need, or?
That's what college is for. You go to college to figure out what you want to do, right? So everybody knows that when you graduate high school, you got an option. You can either go to work, you can go to junior college, or you can go to the 4-year university. Well, we can, as teachers, we know who's gonna go to work, who needs to go to JUCO, and who would probably do okay in that traditional college setting. And so no, you don't have to have all the answers right now, because the first 2 years you're gonna take those general education courses anyway. If you don't have it figured out, then you got 2 years to make a decision.
Yes, because much like me, when I first graduated, I had no clue of what direction I wanted to go in. So I went straight into the workforce. And as I did, it was kind of like just a dead-end job pretty much, but I needed, at the time, I felt the means to make some money, just to get started, get on my own, get established. Then I went back to college, but as doing so, you know, I went to a JUCO and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. So, you know, I was a little confused, and, you know, that's why it's proper to have these type of conversations, because I had no guidance, like no one to guide me or teach me, you know, which way to go.
When I went to Tougaloo, like the first 2 years I went to Tougaloo, and I said, you know, I'm going to Tougaloo because I want to be a lawyer. And I was preparing to do pre-law at the time. And then as I became more familiar with law and what that actually looked like, well, I don't want to do that. And so I had to regroup, because I had already solidified a major and I was on track, you know, pretty much. This was after my sophomore year. So I had to redirect myself a little bit. So that's how I ended up with a degree in English. And I didn't know, even when I graduated with that degree, I didn't know what I was going to do with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
True story.
Yeah. So with kids like struggling nowadays, like what kind of guidance like they can come to people like you, like administrative assistants or in the administrative department, like being in high school, like they can go to their counselors and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So the first place or the first stop, you know, I would always recommend that students seek the help of their guidance counselor, a trusted teacher, somebody who they know will give them the best advice, or you know, who is truly concerned about what their interests are. And then also, if they think they have an idea of what they want to do, find somebody who's already in that field.
Yes.
Because there is no greater relationship that is more important than having a mentor.
Right.
That is so critical.
Yeah, that's important. Very important. Yeah. So, and from the female perspective, like pregnant teen or whatever, teen mother or someone who's pregnant who kind of feeling hopeless and like, you know, should I go to college? Should I just get a job, raise my kid? What advice would you have for like someone who's pregnant?
You have to have a conversation with yourself, and you got to know what you are capable of and what you're built for. You can't give blanketed advice to every pregnant teen because their situations are different.
Oh, right.
And so I would encourage anyone who finds themselves in a situation where they are about to have a baby, they hadn't yet, you know, determined what they needed to do. You have to do a full survey of what your situation is. If you have the support system and people to back you, where you can depend on them to help you with your baby, to, you know, assist you financially, then of course you might have a little more flexibility to go out and go to school and do things like that. But everybody doesn't have that. And so if that's not your reality, then you've got to sacrifice, get a job, and do what's best for your baby.
I got you.
Well, some schools are now offering like daycare for your kids while they go to school, and I think that's a great thing.
Absolutely.
So that more encourages the that you know, teenage mother. Okay, I got some help at least from the school system to watch my baby while I go, and I think that should be something that, you know, should trend probably, you know, U.S. wide.
Well, think about how that impacts the whole spectrum. So you have a student who has a baby in high school. If she's able to bring that baby to campus, okay, that means that it's definitely a program that she can afford if there is any fee attached at all. And then most likely you have other students who are interested in early childhood education who are working in that program, who are getting the education. So not only are we servicing the teenage mother, but we're also servicing the other students with that opportunity to work in the field. And so you're right, if that opportunity is, you know, available in the district, then it could have tremendous positive impact for those kids.
That's good. Yeah. And before you became administrator, you was a teacher, right?
Yes.
And you taught 3rd grade?
10th grade.
10th grade. High school.
I could not teach 3rd grade ever in my life.
Was that challenging?
Teaching 10th grade?
Yeah.
So, yes, at first. Because 10th grade English in Mississippi is a state tested area, which means you have to pass the state test at the end of your 10th grade year in order to graduate.
Oh, okay. So that's critical.
That's critical. So the way that it works out, you have Biology 1, which is usually what they take in 9th grade.
Yeah.
English 2 is usually in the 10th grade. U.S. History is a test that they have to take their junior year. And then you have Algebra 1 that in some districts, kids take it in 8th grade. Some districts, they take it in the 9th grade. So those are the 4 tests that they have to take. So when I started teaching 11, 12 years ago, stepping into a state-tested classroom was unlike anything I had ever seen before. Because I didn't go to school to be a teacher, remember?
Yeah.
Like, I just kind of did the alternate route, and that is where I ended up. And so when I realized what it meant to teach in a state-tested area, I had to rethink what my classroom looked like. So those first 3 years were absolute struggle. Like, you don't really know what you're doing when you're teaching until after your 3rd year. Your 3rd year is where you're like, okay,
I got this.
I can manage the curriculum and I can manage the kids, and we're gonna all make it out of here alive.
Yeah.
But those first couple of years, you are just really trying to find your way. But you know, once you get the hang of it, it's all good. I love teaching.
You do?
And I cannot say that enough. This year as an administrator, one of the things that I struggled most with was going into a classroom to do an observation and fighting the urge to get up and teach because I love what I do so much.
That's right. And one of the things I was going to mention was, because you hear people say all the time that it starts at the home. Or you see some teachers say, you know, start teaching your kids at home first, you know. So how do you feel about that?
I absolutely agree. Parents are the first teachers that their children ever see. Because, you know, when they're little, they're watching everything we do.
That's right.
They mimic how we act, they mimic how we talk.
They're sponges.
And they're sponges. So they're absorbing all of that. And then what do? They take it to their classrooms and they regurgitate it the best way they know how. And it might come out good and sometimes it might come out jacked up. But parents are the first teachers. But teachers, those of us who are trained to do this, have an incredible way of getting a message across that a parent can't. And then outside of the teachers, kids are teachers to each other because their peers have a way of getting a message across that teachers can't and parents can't.
I got you.
So we all have that, you know, teacher in us, and it's responsibility.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, I see that, like I said, with the pandemic, we're kind of transitioning to a new way, or the new normal as they call it. So what are some of the challenges that we're going to face? Because I give you an example, as far as like if you do virtual, you deal with all type of mental state like dyslexia, ADHD. So a parent cannot handle that. And then, you know, some kids are more hands-on, and some are you know, they can listen and learn, or they're visual learners. Yeah. So that's going to be a struggle. So how do you think? What do you think about that?
So COVID-19 is forcing all of us to make changes very quickly. Traditional school, like we know it, is going to be incredibly different. School administrators have an incredible task right now with trying to anticipate all of the what ifs. And that's hard to do. So we have suggestions that come from CDC, and then we have guidance that comes from MDE, and then we have what the superintendent, you know, gathers from both of those entities, and we have to make school happen. And so the one thing we do know is that school will resume in some way, shape, fashion, or form. Ultimately, districts are working around the clock to do what is best for kids. We are going to make sure that we have all of the proper supplies to keep our classrooms clean and to keep their little hands and faces clean. We are going to do all that we can to provide the mask and to keep them socially distant. We're doing everything we can to operate at that 50% capacity because that is going to be a huge challenge. You've got some schools, a school where I taught previously that has a student population of 1,700 kids.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You taught in Jackson first. Up in that
I was in Brandon, and then, well, I was in JPS first, then Brandon, and now here. And so the student populations are huge.
How do you break that in half? That's incredible. I mean,
yeah. But we figure it out. And so we have plan A, plan B, plan C, and a contingency plan for all of those. and we submit those plans, and we are very good about collaborating with other principals in other districts to see what's working or what may or may not work. But the truth about it is, this year everybody's going to be a first-year administrator, first-year teacher, because we never had to do it like this before. It's going to be brand new, and brand new, but not impossible. Because I'm a firm believer in, when you are doing what's best for kids, you're always doing the right thing.
That's right.
So we are just, prayerful and hopeful that we will come out on the other side of this stronger and better than we were before. And our teachers are going to be much better for it, because they're having to integrate this distant learning component to their instruction. Administrators are learning new ways to grow and mold teachers and to create learning environments that are good for kids and for the faculty and staff.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be different, but not impossible.
Yeah. So you think that school will resume?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the timeline same August. Okay. Yeah. Because we had to, as a parent, we had to vote. Go online and choose which schedule that we wanted. Yeah, we had to do the survey on which schedule that we wanted, and how comfortable we were with our kids going to school. Now, another challenge too, some parents are going to oppose kids going back to school, so it may be a drop off in attendance.
Yeah.
So how would that work as far as, because by law children have to attend
They
school.
have to attend, but that's the whole point of the surveys. And so what we are waiting for now is to see how the federal government and state officials will direct us with that, because we have this thing called ADA, annual average daily attendance. And so that just kind of keeps us on track of how many kids we have in school every day versus the ones who are absent. Of course, everything is tied to federal money.
Yes.
And we have to, as administrators, find a way to keep track of the kids who elect to do virtual learning, and how to also keep track of the ones who choose to come to school.
Okay. So it's an option.
Right.
So you had that option.
all
Y'all haven't made the final decision.
No, there has not been a final decision made, but we are still responsible for making sure we have our hands and eyes on the kids. And so no matter what option we choose, we have a responsibility to track and keep up with them.
Yes, okay. Well, that's awesome. Well, and then, because another thing too, even in cafeterias, you have to keep that, because it used to be buffet style.
Oh yeah,
pretty much.
So it's grab and go.
Yeah.
Mostly, kind of like when school first shut down in March, and we were offering the grab and go meals with the pickup. We are anticipating that it will be more of that. And then even for those kids who elect to do school virtually, we still have responsibility to feed those children.
Yeah.
So, like I said, banging the head against the wall every single day, trying to make sure we have every single detail accounted for when we get ready to open school in August.
I mean, it sounds like y'all on the right track. I mean, that from just listening to what you're saying, it sounds like it's should work out pretty good, because you not only you saying you're including the ones that's going to be there, you're going to have the ones that parents elect them not to come, but they still get the education at home. So I mean, I'm looking forward to see what this school year brings.
We are too, because there's a lot of things that go into this. Having necessary technology, not just for the kids to have a device, but what is available in the classroom so that teachers can record their lessons. How are we making sure that if what are the procedures for if a child comes to school who may be running a fever or who is not feeling well? We have to account for all of that. So one thing that I have learned in this year being an administrator is your first job is to meet the needs of every student, every adult, every person who comes in your building. And the hard task of that is making sure that you address every single need.
Yeah, and a critical need is like those who are virtual are sick and have to go into 14-day quarantine, but still need to get the lesson. Will the resources be available to them as far as like laptops, Wi-Fi in the home, to communicate or take whatever test is needed,
Our district has been very proactive with making sure we are doing the best we can to get devices to every child. So, and it's not just our district, it's all the districts.
Yes, all the gotta be all
Yeah,
the districts.
I would hate to see, what the charge right now is for Chromebooks or laptops, depending on whatever company each district uses, because it's gonna be expensive.
Yes.
But it's a non-negotiable at this point
Yeah.
because we have to prepare for the in-home and distance learning at the same time.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be a challenge, but like you said, it's not impossible.
No, it's not
It can be
impossible.
done. It can be
It's
done.
just a whole lot of mental work that's got to happen.
Yeah.
And then, it's one of those situations where you don't really know how it's going to work out until you in the thick of it, right? So, we'll see. But we feel like we're prepared, and we feel like we have done our best to answer the needs that we foresee.
Okay, yeah, well, that's awesome. That's some great info.
I mean, I forgot really about the COVID side of the kids being.
Man.
Are they gonna have to
The
wear
teachers,
masks?
and the teachers too as well.
Yeah.
Because,
We got to keep everybody healthy.
Yeah, like some of the teachers have underlying conditions
Absolutely.
already, or they may be elder
Mhm.
and may not feel comfortable. So you have to take all of that into
We
consideration.
have to take all of that into consideration. Can you imagine the nightmare it's going to be
Yeah,
when we have to try to find subs?
yeah.
Like,
And then,
nobody's
I
gonna
forgot-
want to substitute teach.
Yeah, I forgot about the transportation.
Yeah,
school buses and
buses,
stuff
yeah.
too.
You
Yeah,
got social buses on the. Well,
Mhm.
that's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, on the school buses and keeping those sanitized because you got little ones on there. From,
So just know that your local district administrators have been thinking about all of these turns
Wow.
every single day, probably since March.
yeah.
And it seems like a long time, but it has gone by so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Another key thing about that too as well are the seniors
Mm-hmm.
graduating.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to get whatever credits needed to graduate. So that's gonna be a challenge.
Well, the way that it's set up is if you did what you were supposed to do, you've got the credits you need to graduate by the time you start your senior year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they, the biggest thing for seniors is we want them to have their senior experience.
Mhm.
Because there's no year like your senior year.
Right,
Like that is
right.
what
You've
you
been
wait
waiting all
for.
your life for that.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of districts really went the extra mile in trying to plan graduations for the class of 2020
Yeah.
and still give them what they needed because those kids worked so hard.
Yeah, and they did a great
And
job.
that is what they deserve,
Yeah,
right? They
yeah.
deserve to have their moment.
Mhm.
And so moving forward to this next class, we don't know what this senior year is going to look like, but we do know that there are things that are important to them like homecoming
Right.
and prom and
Mhm.
graduation. So we've got to have plan A, B, and C and contingency for those things too because we just simply don't know what's going to happen.
And then another thing, like as a father of an athlete, which I know he's already graduated, what about like the scholarships? Like they won't have a season this year, like the athletes, for football, baseball, basketball, whatever. So how does the scholarship work? That's gonna be complicated.
I have no idea. I can't answer athletic questions one bit. But all I know is that, they are preparing to play. And we hope that they will be able to.
Okay, that's awesome.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Well, we need a little sports in our life.
The
Get a little
kids are
sanity.
hungry. Listen, they are
Yeah.
so anxious to get out there. Some schools have already, resumed some outdoor practices.
Yeah, they have.
And
they have.
so, that is kind of taking the edge off of them a little bit because that kind of gives them a little.
hope of.
Yeah.
We gonna
So
win.
we just hope that we are actually able to see them in action.
Yeah.
However, they might be playing in a stadium with nobody but the coaches
Yeah.
and the scouts possibly,
Uh-huh.
but we want to be able to make that happen for them.
But I was gonna say just to backtrack a little bit. It's kind of weird that I thought that you always planned on being a teacher.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
No.
No. I ran from teaching for a while. Even after I graduated college, I was a grants administrator. So I wrote grants and I worked for a nonprofit. And then when that didn't work out, I was like, what am I going to do next? And I was actually an assistant manager at Walgreens.
Oh yeah.
It was the worst job ever. I hated it. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I realized that very quickly. And then I took a job as student activities director
Mhm.
at my alma mater at Tougaloo, and I worked that for about a year, maybe a little longer. And then it was just one of those things where, girl, just go and take the praxis and see what happens. Took the praxis, got a job, my first job in JPS, and it has been history ever since.
Okay, you love it.
I love it.
Yeah, that's
You know, everybody doesn't get to do what God has called them to do every day.
correct.
But I am very clear about the fact that I'm walking in my purpose and I'm doing a job that I love to do.
Yes.
So it doesn't really feel
Yeah, that's
like
awesome.
work.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. When you find your purpose that God has for you and you get to do it, it's like you never worked.
I'm
hard.
never ever not gonna teach. I'm never ever not gonna work with kids because I understand how important it is, not for them but for me, to be able. They give me life.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like to be able to learn from them and to see how their thought processes work. It keeps me on my toes. And so I never have the same day twice at work. And for a personality like mine, that's really important because I get bored real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, teaching affords me that. Education affords me that. And so I miss the classroom, but I also love what I'm doing now because now I'm getting to teach teachers. Now I'm getting to grow the people who are responsible for the little people.
Yes,
Yeah.
now that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I give you a little glimmer of hope too with that. Who knows? You may be help shaping and mold the next president.
I might.
You know.
We'll see.
So that's a beautiful thing. So that's what I was gonna ask you. Like, for those who seeking to get a degree or start a career in education, what kind of advice would you give them? Love it first. I know that's the key thing. Oh, it's not okay.
You don't love it first because it grows on you.
Okay.
It grows on you. I think that for someone who is considering education, don't be afraid to do the alternate route. Don't feel like you gotta go to school to learn how to be a teacher. A lot of us are teaching, like I said, who didn't go to school to be a teacher. But if you go in the classroom, understand that those kids are gonna be able to sniff you out a mile away. And if you are there for the wrong reason, they're gonna know it. So when you go into the classroom, go into the classroom with the intent of doing what's best for kids at every turn. Allow yourself to fail and make mistakes because you grow and you learn as a result of your failures. Find someone in your department or in your area of content who's good at what they do and attach yourself to that individual because that person is only going to make you stronger. And understand that teaching is not something that stops when you go home at night. It's one of those jobs where you take it with you everywhere you go. When you're in Walmart, somebody's gonna call your name from across the store because they see you. And in that moment, it's important for them to see you outside of work. And so we don't have the type of job where we can turn it off, but understand that for that child, it's important in that moment. So someone who's looking to teach, just go into it for the right reasons and you'll be okay.
How did Brandon get into teaching? He always wanted to be a teacher?
No, I don't think so. When Buddy graduated, he moved to DC and he was supposed to do this whole thing with policy, right? And so he was working and doing that, and all of a sudden he was like, yeah, I think I want to teach because I want to do education policy. And so I think the same thing that happened to me kind of happened to him. You get into it and you fall in love with it and it's hard to let it go. Like you don't want to break up with a good girlfriend, right?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You want to marry that thing.
And so while I don't know if, Buddy will teach forever, I think that, when it's in you, it's in you. Like we all know Brittany couldn't do it. Brittany would not be a teacher. It's not in her. She doesn't
ain't got the patience.
No, indeed. But for Buddy and I, it just kind of felt like the right thing to do. So that's where we are.
Yeah, and he's doing a great job. I've seen a couple of his videos, and even during the pandemic, right now he's teaching, online, like he broke down a way, and I just give a brief, little detail on this, on how to do
the math
addition,
problem,
addition. With the double digits or whatever, and how he broke it down
sticks
with the
trough.
sticks, man.
But let me insert something here. You see how he was able to do that, and that makes sense. I could never.
Yeah.
You understand? He is great at elementary
With younger
education.
kids, yeah.
I would never be able to come up with that. And so shout out to my kid brother because that's a different level of patience. Like he is out here making videos where he's reading stories to the kids, and I mean he is
awesome.
really good at that. You know what I'm
awesome.
saying? But then there's this whole other beast over here called secondary, where it's a little different. And that's my goal.
Okay. Yeah, and I have to put that link in the video
Yeah,
for the people with younger kids that can follow that. Man, it's a great and interesting way to teach your kids at home.
Yeah.
You know, because as an adult, I
We
never
all
thought
need
to
help.
do it that way. You know, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. I mean, I know addition. I should know.
Yeah, but
addition.
our addition is totally different from what the kids are learning.
Right.
And so we need help
Yeah.
with learning how to help our kids do great.
But at a certain point, with the high school student, I mean, certain things that he would bring home, I could help him with. But it got to like maybe that 9th grade level stuff, and I'm like, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
He said, I'm looking for his old sister. Come here. Help him. But yeah, it's not like, you know, my day. I understand everything evolves and but teaching now, I think kids are better taught, and you know, you had great teachers back then. Because I can name my 3rd grade teacher, Miss Cooper, and she was like awesome to me. It was like I would see her like in this grocery store, and I'm like, "Hey, Miss Kid," for her to speak back, that just did wonders. You know?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But
Teachers are the first superhero. They're
they are.
superheroes.
They are.
Yeah.
She was my superhero. Yeah,
I
they
like
are.
that.
They are. I mean, you know, they get inspiration. Even when I got older and I went to, because when I graduated high school, I was one of them kids that I knew what I wanted to do, but my dad helped me make a great decision. He took me down there and said, there's the Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force. So I went to the Navy, and then when I got out, I got GI Bill money. Back then, they were only giving like $10,000. So I got my money, and I still don't know, I want to go to school, or do I want to? I think I'll take up barbering. I met a lady in barbering. My barber instructor was Miss Ola. Love that lady to death. One of my most favorite teachers. She taught me so much in the class that when, you know, I got out, because I was always quite nervous when I got out. You know, I'm like, I don't want to mess nobody's head up, but I could hear her voice. It's what you do. And to this day, she's still like one of my favorite teachers. I saw her maybe 2 years ago, or maybe 3, at a nursing home. She was visiting the elder there, and I saw her there, and I'm like, hey, Miss Ola. She's like, hey, Johnny. We talked for
And
a little
even
bit.
as an adult, seeing her made your day
It
different.
was just like I went back
See?
to
Talk about the impact, right?
Yeah, man.
That's it.
And it has a huge impact too. One of the things I wanted to share real quick before we wrap it up, about, like you said, it's so critical the way that they learn addition now is totally different from how we learned it coming up. Well, you know, if you're ever on social media, Facebook, if you're ever on Facebook, like they'll have like an equation up there, and everybody getting it wrong because the way that they do algebra now is different. Like the way that they break it down, so people they go out to what PEMDAS, I think that's what it's called, the PEMDAS, and then PEMDAS. And then so they try to use that, and they still end up getting the answer wrong. So you know,
and I don't ever participate because I'm an English teacher on purpose.
yeah,
I always mess up the math question, every time.
Yeah. So you know, but yeah, see that's one of the things. But like I said, it's gonna be challenging, but we appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
Man,
Thank
this
you
has
for
been
having
wonderful.
me.
I said in the beginning before we even got started, it's gonna be perfect. So you know, we learned a lot because, like you said, everyone now is it's year one for everybody. You know, a new learning experience. Not even for the teachers, but you know, for the children, the parents, the whole nine, the faculty and staff. So yeah. So I appreciate you being on.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
This was
indeed.
fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed having you.
And as always, you know, y'all rock. You know, the teachers and you just being a mom and teaching and career, because I love your little angel too, and the things that you put up about him. She's so smart.
Is she an angel? That's still to be determined. But that is my heart and soul.
Yes, indeed.
She's full of so much personality.
Yes.
She stresses me out.
Does she?
Yes.
But she keep you going.
Yes, absolutely. You got to be quick to keep up with that one.
Well, that's good. Well, you got a lot of energy. You can deal with her.
I pray every day.
Well, we appreciate you being on.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Yes, indeed. Well, Till next time, this has been Humility Unapologetic Podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share, whatever you got to do. And I always tell people, you know, that they got an advocate, you know, that they get someone they can reach out to, you know. So, and you being that person, I presume. Well, I'm sure of that. If you got a child in, I guess, the Hattiesburg area and you need someone to talk to,
absolutely.
you know, you reach out to Miss Twillie. She's there for your child. If you think your child acting bad, reach out to Miss Twillie.
I might not have all the answers, but I'll find somebody who can help us both.
Okay. Yeah. Well, till next time, peace.